Good morning, liveweatherblogs.com meteorologist Bob Acanfrio with today's tropical update for Sunday, August 29th, 2010. A lot to talk about again today, so let's get right to it. I'm not going to focus on Hurricane Danielle at all. It's not a threat to any land. If you want to see the latest on that, just go to the NOAA site and they'll have the latest on Hurricane Danielle. Our focus right now is going to be on, although this does say Tropical Storm Earl, the hurricane hunters have found hurricane force winds, so this is now officially Hurricane Earl as of 8:30. The new graphics at 11 will show that. Here's the official forecast track by the National Hurricane Center. As of 8 a.m. it was still moving west at 18, but now it does have sustained winds of 75 as of the 8:30 special advisory. The official forecast track does take this pretty close to the northern Leeward Islands, and then and I'll show you in a minute here, I'm much more confident on this track, missing the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And I'll show you that in a minute. But has it a hurricane and then going just to the north of the Virgin Islands and to the north of Puerto Rico. And then here comes the hook. Does it stay east of the Bahamas? That's looking pretty good right now. Bahamas should be spared. Then let's move this up closer and widen this out as the 5-day track here. Now this is where the discrepancies come. You can see how wide this cone is. And I'll show you in a minute all the different model runs and what I'm thinking. But we have, could it come and move and hit the Outer Banks of North Carolina or come pretty close? Yeah, right now that's a possibility. Or does it move on the east side of the cone and miss the United States altogether and move in between Bermuda and the United States? I call this my little goalpost here. Does it move right through these goalposts and miss the United States altogether, and then we could expand this map, and does this then towards the end here hook off this way and miss everybody? Or does it speed up and maybe move into the New England area, Long Island? Still a possibility. We can't take that out of the equation yet. And of course up here, which is out of the map range, which I'll show you when we're looking at the satellite views, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, we got to worry about our Canadian friends as well. This is definitely going to get into a sweet spot right in here where this could develop in pretty close to a major hurricane. Wind shear is going to be light, waters are going to be warm, so definitely going to watch that as well. And then we should see the acceleration here as a trough is going to try to move eastward from the central United States, and that's what's going to try to give this a kick out to sea. But there's still discrepancies on how fast that trough is going to move, how deep it's going to be, and that's where the models are kind of wavering back and forth in here, and that's what's putting the East Coast in a little bit of a danger with this system right now. Still a little ways off there. This is still later in the week out in this range, so we still have time to really focus in on this forecast right now. So let's get right to it here. Satellite map here, and this is showing Earl right now, and you can see the latest frames. We've been having this northerly shear from the outflow from Danielle, also from that upper high to its north. But you can see the last few frames. Look at this. Finally, we're seeing this outflow expand to the north, and that's really what's going to start cranking this system up. And we should see this system slow but steady strengthen into a Category 1, then a Category 2 hurricane. And you can see the official forecast track. And I'll show you on the water vapor loop why I really think Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands will not take a direct hit with this system. Tropical storm. We have tropical storm watches. Let's go back to this map real quick. I'm sorry. I neglected this part here. We do have hurricane warnings out for the northern Leeward Islands. Then we have tropical storm watches out for the Virgin Islands, U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and the island of Puerto Rico. And then tropical storm warnings as well for this area as well. Okay, now let's get back to that. I'm sorry about that. So again, the islands that I think are going to be most effective, this is going to get close to Barbuda, which is right here. And then right in this area we have Anguilla, St. Martin, and St. Barth, and that's right in this area here. So if you have any travel plans down here next day or two, I would stay away. And this hurricane's going to come pretty close to these islands right here. Again, should stay north of the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and then northeast of Puerto Rico. The storm will be big enough that definitely we'll see tropical storm force winds, especially on the northeastern side of Puerto Rico and the British and Virgin Islands right in here. Possibly, if this gets large enough, some hurricane force winds or at least some hurricane force gusts could brush the northeast coast of Puerto Rico and again the Virgin Islands in here. The biggest threat will be again a lot of rain and then the winds. Not as big of a wind threat, especially if this goes north, which is what it's looking like now, but definitely rough seas, a little bit of surge. The good news is you're not going to be on the east side of this system. And that's where the strongest winds are going to be since this is passing to your north. So again, a close call here, but it looks like you're going to be spared the worst of this system. This will be affecting the Virgin Islands by Monday morning, and then Puerto Rico by about Monday afternoon. That's when you're going to see the worst of your weather. So again, I like the National Hurricane Center track right now here. And again, this could go over these northern Leeward Islands right here by later, very early tomorrow morning, late tonight. Okay, the bigger picture, and this is why I'm more confident on this missing Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and you can just see it pretty clearly here. Here's the break in the subtropical ridge right here. You could just draw this little line here. Now look at these clouds. Look very closely. You could see them moving off to the north. Look at this outflow right here ahead of it. Look carefully, and you could see it moving to the northwest a little bit. That's where Earl's going to go. It's going to follow this line right like that. I mean, you could just see it clear as day right now. Just look at these clouds. So, very confident this is missing the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. No direct hit there. Again, I explained the effects that they'll have on this system, but thankfully it's going to go just north of them. And then afterwards, I'm going to show you here, we're going to watch this trough right here, now situated in the Midwest, move eastward. So as Earl comes up like this, we're going to have to watch this trough. Does it move fast enough to kick Earl out to sea, or does it lag behind and Earl gets to go more straight up north? And then that's when we'd have to watch North Carolina Outer Banks and then possibly New England and here, even Long Island. And then, of course, our friends in Canada. They could be the ones getting the brunt of this storm in the end, the way this track is going. Because if it does miss the East Coast, it's probably going to hit Nova Scotia or Newfoundland up in here. And that wouldn't be until late next weekend sometime. All right, wind shear. You can see still that northerly wind shear that was affecting Earl. But as Danielle moves away and as it loses the influences of this upper high, this is the sweet spot right in here where we could see this system really explode. And then, boy, you talk about waves along the East Coast with Danielle. Wait until we get Earl. It's going to be a surfer's delight. Dangerous for people that are inexperienced swimmers, but for you surfers, especially along Florida here, boy, get them boards ready. It's going to be crazy. And here's our, and this should be, and I'll explain this in a minute, this should be Tropical Depression number 8 out here. Right now it had a nice little upper high over. Seeing a little bit of easterly shear this morning now with it. But this definitely should be named Tropical Depression number 8 at 11. I'd be surprised if it's not. And then this could be on its way to Fiona, but I'll show you all of that in a minute. And here's the layer wind analysis. You can see the break in the subtropical high, pretty clear as day here. And then Earl will go like this, and then we're going to wait for this trough out in the Midwest to give it that possible kick out to sea, or maybe not. So that's the question mark out here right now. Okay, model runs. These are the early runs. Early runs have been well east of the global models, and you can see they continue to be well east of the globals, which is pretty interesting. But there's the early run models, everybody pretty far east. Intensity models, you could see, and the LGEM is my favorite, and that's right in this section right here. And you can see a lot of the intensity models do bring this to a major hurricane in about 72 to 96 hours, and that's when it's going to find that little sweet spot to the east of the Bahamas there, and really could intensify pretty rapidly in there. And then we see, as it does move up the East Coast, a southwesterly shear should start affecting it, and we should see a gradual weakening trend, but still a powerful hurricane. Okay, more model runs here, and this is from Weather Underground, just kind of showing you the whole plot here. This has been updated a little bit. I'll show you the GFS model. The latest GFS model actually brings us a little closer to the coast now. UK Med has been farthest west too as well, bringing it close to New England. And I will show you the Canadian model and the Euro model do have it pretty far west as well. The ones that have been on the east side have been the HWRF and GFDL models. The No Gaps model has been farthest east. That has shifted a little bit west as well. So we have a group right in this area, and then there's some other global models that ride it along the coast here. So you can see still a pretty good spread in the models. All right, GFDL, pretty consistent. GFDL has been splitting the, I call it my little goalpost here between the Outer Banks and Bermuda. And this has been pretty consistent, and you can see bringing up to a major hurricane in that area that I was talking about, and then through the goalpost there. HWRF has been the same way. A little weaker with this system, and you can see it starts weakening it pretty rapidly with that. Has a little more southwesterly shear up here. And here's the Canadian model. This was one of our most western models as well, and you can see it bringing it pretty close to the Outer Banks and then pretty close to New England there. So that's pretty far west. And then you can see Fiona behind it. Does it get left behind and move west? Not going to talk too much about that. That's way down the road right now, but I'll show you the Euro model's pretty interesting on Fiona. And finally our GFS model as well. Wait till it gets back into motion here. And we'll show you this in a second. I'm sorry, taking a little bit of time here. But here we go. So here's Earl. This is the latest GFS model. Kind of at 0Z, kind of moved it a little farther east. Now at 6Z, we're kind of back west again. And you can see pretty close. And then if we move it up here, kind of a direct hit into Nova Scotia and Newfoundland down the road. But you can see there it was, right out like that. So pretty close to the coast again. The Euro model has also come a little farther west with Earl on the 0Z run. And we'll show you this in a minute here. So here's Earl, and then pretty far west, pretty close to New England here, and then into Nova Scotia. And there's our could-be Fiona hitting Florida as a hurricane. Again, this is way out there, but that could be a possibility. You know, Fiona's either going to take this same course as Earl or get left behind and move farther west. Again, way out in the distance. Let's not in Florida. Let's not panic right now. So that's showing you that. Just very interesting. The Euro's been very consistent, but the Euro hasn't performed that good this year as far as tracking hurricanes. So, but we'll have to see what happens there. So that's what I see with our system here, Earl. I still think, let's get back to the track here, and let me show you something here. I still think this is going to go on the western edge of this cone, and that is why. Because if I'm looking at the trough out to the west, it really doesn't look like it amplifies. I mean, it doesn't look like it pushes as far east. I think the models are having a little hard time with that right now. And you can see them waver back and forth. And we may even see the 12Z models come a little far, come back with a consensus more to the west at 12Z. We'll have to watch that. But if I'm on the western side of this cone, and if we move this up, if I'm on the western side of this cone, then the Outer Banks have to watch this, and of course, Long Island, New England have to watch this as well down the road, and that wouldn't be until later in the week, next weekend. So we could have a Labor Day hurricane threatening the Northeast. It's a possibility right now, so stay tuned for that. But that's my thinking right now. Again, it's going to go north of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Good news for them, but they will still have some effects from Earl, and then we'll have to watch out during the week. Where does this go along the Northeast coast? Real quick, I'm sorry this is taking so long today, but there's a lot to look at. This is tropical depression, which I think is tropical depression number 8. Last night you could see pretty well-defined surface circulation out here. I am kind of surprised we didn't see a tropical depression at 5 a.m. It's just weird that we didn't see it. I'm expecting to see it at 11. It has to be. I'd be very surprised if we don't see it at 11. And you can see great banding features. Still a little bit of easterly shear with this, but look at that nice banding feature with this system. This is a tropical depression. If they don't name it at 11 o'clock, I'd be shocked. And then you see the latest early run models, and I showed you some of the other global models on Fiona, but again, does it follow Earl or not, or get left behind? Long way off. We'll worry about that later. And again, the bigger picture, Danielle, goodbye. Earl, our next threat. Possible Fiona, and then we'll find another system coming off Africa this week. That's it for today. Thanks for being patient with this long update, but a lot to talk about. I will probably have another little quick, smaller update later today once the 12Z models come in, and we'll see what Earl is doing. Have a good